Oh, there we go. Welcome everybody to first and ever DriveSales Show with obviously yours truly. Yeah, you can read my name and the one and only Ben Cross. What's going on,
What's
buddy?
up, Milo? How's it going?
Look, dude, it's been a minute. I'm
Or should
excited
I
to
call you
get
Milovan
this.
now? Now you got like a big show and everything. I feel like it's like should be
Oh,
professional. You
you
know,
can be professional. Like, look, we have a long relationship
Mr.
that we don't have to
Milosevic. How are
go.
you, sir?
Uh,
Okay.
how are you, sir? I don't think we have to go that official. I think it's completely cool you call me Milo. We go a bit back. So I'll fill
Yeah,
people in. I'll fill people in. So
we do go
been
back.
here.
We go back a long time, actually.
We do. So how I met Ben
Uh-oh.
is I annoyed the living shit out of it.
Not too far from the truth, actually.
Yeah, I
That's one way
was
to drive
doing
sales for sure.
drive sales. Yeah, at that time I didn't know much what I was doing, but I was persistent. I did cold calling and I was selling video surveying into the moving industry. And Ben was running and was at university moving at that time.
Yep.
I called you consistently. I even now remember people that I called that you referred me to at that time. I think it was Noah. I think it was other people. I remember all of that.
Yes. You know why? Because early on, I came over there and I was like, I want to make this thing big. How do I scale it? I need video survey technology in my sales process so that we could sell nationwide, not just in our backyard, because we were only 4 locations. And I'd always come from national sales territories, right? So I wanted to sell everywhere. And so I was like, we need to be using, virtual survey technology. I needed a thought partner who could really push this over the line internally. So I'm like, all right, Milo might just be the most, aggressive thought partner I've ever had. So let me put sick him on my sales team and let him push them through using this process. So that's why, I but I feel like we might have even connected before that, maybe
We did.
when I was at Forward Relocation and 1-800 Pack Rat at the
Yes.
IAM conference. It's such a great place to meet people. So I think we might have connected there even.
I think so as well. But when we started, I think that's actually right. And that's already about 6, 7 years ago already. Even more, I think.
Yeah,
And
yeah, probably at least 'cause I've been doing my current job for 2 years. I was at university for 5, so it might have been 7 or 8 years ago.
yeah, and yeah, it's been a long time. But as you can see, I have receding hairline since then,
I
but
just
it's
grow it
good.
out so you can't tell where my holes are. I just grow it out and fluff it up real nice like that.
Yeah, you can do that. Look, even if I grow my hair out, it won't grow like that. It will just like be like a big mushroom. It just like
Hair is all I
grows like
got
this.
right now at this point in my life, so I'm just gonna hold on to it.
It's good. It's a good asset to have. It's a good asset to have.
Mhm.
Unlike me, see, I have to run this very thin, so to speak.
I take
But
in shape over good hair any day, but anyway, that's the thing about sales, right? You just play to your strengths.
I got to. My strengths at that for the time is persistency. I don't have the
Mhm.
good looks. I'm not the smartest guy, and
You
I can
said
be
it.
persistent.
You're very I had a sales guy, I remember early on in my career when I was a sales supervisor at Pods, and I had this salesperson, um, and he said to me, he said, "Persistence conquers resistance." And that was his technique. He was going to ask for the sale 5, 6, 7 times on that phone call. And that was an environment where you were bridge benefiting people. And then you were going into the credit card ask using probably a choice between two close. And then you're going to hit them with that. And then you're going to go and if they give you an objection, you're going to acknowledge it. You're going to rebuttal it. And then you're going to go back and loop back for the close again. And he would ask for the sale. Our requirements 3 times. He'd ask 5, 6, 7 times. And
That's a
sometimes he
lot.
would
Yeah.
get people on that 6th, 7th time, and he would just wear them down like a fighter, just like a heavyweight boxing match. Then
Oh,
the 12th, 13th, 14th. Remember those old boxing matches go 15 rounds. He's like in the 15th round, and they're just like they got nothing left, and they're just throwing these crazy loping haymakers at each other. And he was just doing that. And that's how he would close. And his name was Max Fichtel,
Max
and
Fiddle.
yeah, so he was something, but
Yeah, the money's in the follow-ups. Whatever people tell you, the money is in the follow-ups. So that's a completely different conversation. Speaking of sales, I have
yeah.
a bunch of things, but we'll get into what you're doing right now. We're going to a little bit about the history. So tell me a little bit in your sales leading days, in terms of moving leading sales leading days. I'm curious, what is the single biggest deal that you specifically closed, if you are
Wow.
able to share, obviously.
Oh, I'm an open book, man. I'll share anything. The single biggest deal. Wow. You know what? When I was at Forward Relocation, which was a subsidiary of 1-800 Rat, right? And it was an intrapreneurship, meaning that I created a company within that company. And we were Cardis, who's the biggest relocation company in the world. At least it was at the time. I think it still is. We were their biggest booker 2 Junes in a row. So basically, the busiest month of the year for the biggest client in the space outside the US military, we booked the most shipments for them 2 years in a row. So that deal right there was enormous. And what was cool about that deal was because we were an alternative provider and not a traditional van line provider. We were not using tariff pricing. We were using more like international rates where you can quote kind of whatever you want, like a cost plus model. So we were getting a lot of the shipments that the traditional players didn't want. Um, but we were able, then they didn't want them because they didn't pay very well, frankly.
Yeah.
And it was the summer and they were just full. But
Okay.
the revenue quality wasn't there. But we were able to charge whatever we wanted for them. So they made a ton of sense for us. And then that's also the answer to the biggest deal I ever lost because
Oh,
because
hurts. Painful.
because the quality of service was so poor because we were just like, running and gunning, right? I mean, there was a reason companies that were really smart that have been around 100 years weren't taking these moves, right? And we didn't care. We were just like, yo, we're just gonna, offer a solution. We see a problem, we're gonna offer a solution, we're gonna charge whatever it takes, we're gonna do the move and let the chips fall where they may, right? And over time it was unsustainable for the client because just the quality wasn't there. And so anyways, that was also the biggest client I ever lost. Learned
Uh,
a lot, and you learn a lot. I'll
I
tell you this
know.
too. You learn more from your failures than you do from your successes. You know, all I learned. Well, I learned a lot about how to like service business and scale from gaining it, but I learned how to implode a business and how to, everything not to do in the moving business because the moving business is a very much a long-term play. Successful companies are good for a long time because if you go into the moving business and you try to money grab, summertime, you try to ramp up and staffs at the peak, you're going to fall on your face. You're going to get so many bad Yelp reviews, so many bad Google reviews, and you're going to find it's like a hole that you can't dig out of. And then all your business is going to go away in September, October, November, December, January, February, March, April, right? It's a long valley, right? The peaks are high, but the valleys are low and
Oh
they're
yeah.
long. And so you're going to be sitting there carrying all this staff, looking around, all this staff with no moves. And then what are you going to do? Around Christmas time, you're going to fire them all.
You do a vicious cycle. It's
And then the
awful.
phone starts ringing in April, and you got to go out and hire a bunch of new people that don't know what they're doing. And then you're gonna take a whole bunch of stuff in May, in June, in July, and then you're gonna screw it all up again. And then you're gonna be out of business in 3 years.
Yeah,
So
it's so painful.
yeah,
So painful. Like
yeah,
I've seen it, and I've been what in the industry shorter than you, obviously, but last 7, 8 years, whatever it is, 6, 7 years. Um, and I've seen. I worked with a bunch of moving companies from a sales standpoint. I was mainly selling video surveys, and then I used to sell moves on behalf of moving companies.
right.
Um, but we'll get into all that. And I learned there's a one huge move that went super sideways. Um, and I learned a lot from it. Like when I say huge, I mean months worth of revenue
Hmm.
for some company in one move.
Wow, one
Even
move, one relocation, one single person's move.
one single person's move.
What was the
It was,
weight on that move? What was the weight of the volume on that move? Give us an idea of the scale of that. I want to
well,
understand.
look, I'll tell you this. It took it took to start 6 18 wheelers.
6 tractor trailers for this
Yeah,
one move.
for one move.
Dang.
One move.
So then that tells me if it took 6 and each tractor trailer holds, let's just say 25,000 pounds, could be 28, could be 30. Let's say 25,000 pounds on average. 25,000 times that's 150,000 pound shipment.
But the
That's
thing is,
massive.
but
Massive.
the thing is, it also the people had very expensive cars. They had a Rolls. They had like it was just on a different level. And oh boy, that was not a fun experience. I still get goosebumps from that. But anyway, um,
All right, answer one question. I
that's
got one question for you.
yeah,
Athlete,
yeah.
entertainer, or investor? Who was that person? Were they an athlete,
None,
entertainer, or an investor?
none, none.
There it is.
None of those three. It was a C level executive of a company.
Yeah, we're putting that in the investor bucket. Okay. All right,
Investor
cool.
bucket, yeah.
Interesting. All right, super interesting.
But there were a bunch of things happened. Anyway, so that's why sales is a very specific area in moving in terms of setting the right expectations. If you don't, then you're screwing yourself up in the long run, like you said.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's setting the expectations. So there's two like catchphrases in this business. There's a lot of phrases. There's things I hate to hear, right? And I'll be honest with you, like
Yeah.
communication is key is one of those phrases. Like if I could kill that phrase, like if nobody ever said that to me ever again, I would kill that phrase. And I think setting expectations is another one I hate. Because to
Why?
me, because they're too generic, because these phrases are too
Okay.
generic. Because if you tell, like, so say you take a kid who's 18 years old coming out of high school, and they're like, "Hey, I want to get in the moving business. What's the key to success?" And you're like, "Setting expectations." Like, I
Oh
can't go,
no, 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 no,
I
not
can't
that.
show,
Yeah.
I can't show up day one and use that. Like, it just like I can't. Communication is key. Like I can't. What about communication? Is it the frequency of the communication? Is it how articulate I am? Is it the depth of the communication? Is it telling the right people the right things? Is it all of it? You can't say all of it, so like what I want to be more specific. I'm a big fan. Like, so I was an English major in college. I'm a big fan of being specific, right? And so when you say setting expectations, what do you mean by setting expectations, bro?
Let me emphasize on that. It's absolutely, I agree with you. It's absolutely not the first thing you want to say to someone at 18 years old coming into moving business. That's not it. What I meant more is with a person that's done sales in the moving business or any business, and then when you talk to them about pricing, level of service, what they can expect, what you're supposed to deliver, and being upfront in what exactly is going to happen and how it's going to happen. Not to tell them, hey, look, we'll bring everything will fit in one whatever tractor trailer. You'll
Right.
end up needing two. You end up paying more. That's what I
Sure.
specifically mean. I don't mean like, oh, you have to
Sure.
do. That's what I mean. Like telling the people what they really should know before they even go with you. And if they don't want to go with you and you've done the job well, so be it. I mean,
Yeah, but so you're saying don't say you could do things you can't do. And some people
obviously,
call that
yeah,
over promising, which I also have an issue with that too. So I'm a
I do.
sales guy, right? And you're coming from a place, as a person who's done both sales and operations, right? So
Mhm.
you're coming from a place of someone who's cleaned up messes before, right? And who has the scar tissue from those situations, right? And I'm coming as a salesperson who's like, listen, if I didn't promise something that made my ops team a little squeamish, I'm probably not doing my job. Show me a sales guy that's never gotten in a little bit of trouble on a deal, and I'll show you someone who hasn't closed anything meaningful. Okay. So for me, like I used to tell my salespeople, right, when I was managing my team, I said, listen, because they'd be booking stuff, right? These young, hungry, Turks, right? They'd be going after, business and closing stuff, and they come back to me, with like tears in their eye, and they're like, operations canceled my move, or operations told me I can't do it. Now I got to call this customer and explain it's gonna be twice as much money, and whatever, whatever, and like, oh, they're killing deals left and right. And how come everybody acts like this is a problem? Why don't they just like do it, right? And I said to this one guy, he's real sharp, real up and comer, also left the industry because he couldn't put up with the fact that like we couldn't deliver on stuff. And I said, listen, you got to understand something. Everything you close is a problem for operations. They showed up to work today with 5 things on their plate. You just put a 6th thing on their plate. Everything that sales does creates a problem of a certain magnitude for operations. The question is, how problematic is it? Is it within a range of acceptable problems, like booked another move, 2-man, 4-hour mini, easy peasy, right? On a Wednesday when we didn't have nothing going on. Sounds great. Guys, just got to do a little bit of paperwork for that one. Oh, did you book, six tractor trailers and with 8 gun safes and 2 Ferraris that we got to stick in? Okay, well, that's a problem of a different magnitude, right? And it requires a whole lot more work, And now these guys, these people are complaining about this move you just booked. Meanwhile, you're looking at it like, yeah, but I just charged like 200 grand for this move, and we're going to be making 40% margin on it. They should be happy because I'm funding everybody's paycheck. And I said that to him. I said, listen, you're in a situation where you have to understand everybody in this building eats off what you book. You look around this building, and every single person in this building is their paycheck is funded by the work that you do. So take incredible pride in that. But also realize when you seek to understand the fact that everything you book also creates a problem for these people. And so it takes a certain level of maturity, I think, in this business to understand both sides of that coin and have empathy with the people who are doing the work. But at the same time, secretly know that if you didn't do your job, everybody would be out of a job.
Look, I agree with you there. I can't say I said the same thing to the teams that I've managed, and I've been on the operations side. I've managed a big team, very big team, and I've been on the sales side, lone wolf, all of that stuff, right? And the thing is, even you have to have empathy for the people you work with, and you want to show that you want to help. The only thing that if you're a dick, no one's gonna help you. To put it very
Sure.
bluntly,
Sure.
you know what I mean. And I so there's a bunch of things, but I want to take this subject a bit sideways on a tangent.
Well, I also
This,
want to tell you, operations can be dicks too. Operations can be the
oh
biggest dick
yeah,
too. Because when I walk in that warehouse and I'm wearing a suit and I'm out here like going in boardrooms, closing business all the time, $1 million deals, and these guys, I go out in there and these guys are talking about how shiny my shoes are, if I'm going dancing later, and I got to tell them, I'm taking your mother dancing later, okay? And these are the conversations we're having in the warehouse over here when I'm just trying to get a little bit of respect over here. So like it goes both ways. The moving business is a
does.
salty business with a bunch of people who are really not ultimately very happy with their life decisions that landed them where they are. Okay, on both sides of the equation. Okay, it is a salty business, and people hate salespeople in this business because most of this business, 90% of this business, is what I would consider operational. Right? If you
Yeah,
include finance and operations, and you include move coordinators in operations, 90% of this business is operational, men in trucks, etc. And
yeah,
so, as a salesperson in this business, you are very much in the minority. Okay, yes, you provide the warm blanket of revenue which everyone sleeps under at night, but you are also in the minority in this business. So it is a tough road to hoe in this business.
it's look, it's not easy. I've been on the receiving end a lot of times from ops people. What the hell did you do? How
Mhm.
do you think we can manage this? This is absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah.
And then 5 days later, like when we going back and forth and trying to fix or not fix or just explain what was done, And if you don't write something up that you've done that's not in the messaging or in the like the CRM, whatever, then it's a whole different.
Yeah, if it's not in the notes,
Who?
like you might
Oh
as
my
well. Yeah,
god!
you might. Yeah, they're like gonna
Oh my
crucify.
god!
Oh, is it in the notes? Oh, you didn't put in the notes.
If it's not in notes, it didn't happen, dude. It's like Las Vegas. If it's not in notes, it didn't happen. And I've been stabbed so many times. I end up taking very meticulous notes for myself, so I know exactly what happened because I can't keep track of everything. I told you at the beginning, I'm
Yeah,
not that smart, so I just I write everything down. Um, but yeah, I mean, I generally the thing is that's one of the reasons why I kind of ended up loving the business because I don't know, it's just there's this spark of I just say saltiness that I kind of enjoy the back and forth. I enjoy banter.
it's you know what
Yeah,
it is. It's like when you get in these. It's like when you get in relationships. When you see people in relationships that are toxic, and you're like, why do you stay with that person? It's because it's the highs and the lows, man. Like you get addicted. The highs are high and the lows are low, right? And the highs, you're just like running on adrenaline, working, 6.5 days a week during the summertime and caking all sorts of money. And then, in the lows, you're in some cat lady's, apartment. She's chain smoking and she hoards, she's putting 20,000 pounds of magazines in a 1-bedroom apartment. And you're like, I really got to go on this appointment right here and try to convince this person that we want to move their household goods, and you're just like, oh, and then when you get out of there, you don't even get the deal. And it's like, and then everybody back at the office hates you. I mean, this is the highs and the lows of the moving industry. It's addicting though, because it's kind of toxic. It's kind of an
it
abusive
is. It
relationship
is
with the
abusive.
moving.
It is abusive. It tells you a lot about me as well
It
as a
is.
person. It tells
Uh-huh.
you a lot. Look, December, you do like because I've done the majority of the sales I've done through video surveys, right? In terms of like selling moves. And I've done this. I remember this specific house, man, that was to put it mildly disgusting.
Mm-hmm.
On like disgusting. When I say disgusting, I'll paint a very vivid picture for people who's going to will be watching this. There was animal feces on the floor. There was there was food on the floor. There was garbage and shit all over the place. And then I know no one's gonna service the move. I know if this stays like this, no one's gonna service this move. And it's December, as you said.
Yeah.
Like December, Christmas time, you gotta do what you gotta do. And then I had to convince the moving company, hey, look, I did get the deal. Like I charged extra because I had to get people to come and clean the place up before it was moved. It was painful.
Yeah.
I was like, holy
Yeah.
shit.
Did
Yeah,
you
like
charge?
this.
Let me ask you, did you charge for the cleaning?
Oh yeah, look,
Were you able to charge?
oh yeah, I had to.
Mm-hmm.
I had to because if I didn't that move, I don't think anybody. I don't think anybody would have moved that person anyway. They would have done an in-home survey. Like legitimately, I do not think anybody would. So I had to organize. I had to go out of my way to organize a cleaning session. The people I organized cleaners, they hated me. Obviously, it took them a bit to fix that up. Once it's done, after a couple of days, then the movers came in to move stuff out. Because I wouldn't have set the foot. I couldn't send a crew in it with like
No, and you would have heard
with good
about it,
intentions.
and they would have
Yeah.
walked off the job,
Oh
and you
yeah.
would have heard about it forever, and they would have, and they would, yeah. Anyway, yeah,
Yeah, anyway, that's a different. There's no point in doing that. But anyway, like I want to switch this conversation a bit. So you left the specifically moving industry.
no
You
idea
went,
why.
yeah.
Just kidding.
I have no idea why as well. Like it's a great industry. It's a fully lovable and amazing industry. But as we said, you went from moving industry, you went into mobility space, and you started GLOMO. So talk to me about GLOMO.
Yeah,
I know a bit what you guys do. I'll ask you a couple of more questions as we go. But talk to me
yeah.
about the idea of GLOMO and how that came about from
Yeah, well,
your experience.
and I want to be clear here too. Like, I mean, moving is a subset of relocation, which is a subset
Mhm.
of global mobility.
Yeah.
right? And so, what I thought to myself is I need to get out of just moving,
Mhm.
right? Um, you can only make so much money. I mean, I was making really good money doing what I was doing,
Mhm.
and I was like in the top probably 1% earners in, moving from a sales standpoint. And that was pretty much as high as, I won't say as high as I could go. I mean, there was people probably making more. I mean, there's people making more than me, but they were working for a long time, and I knew I wanted to make way more than they were making
Yeah.
by the end of this thing, right? And so I was like, okay, I need to pivot up out of just doing this. I need to go upstream to to get closer to the customers and where the money is. And so yes, I started Love and Reload, which was my, I guess you call it a podcast, live stream, whatever, right? And I did that January
The one,
20,
the one I invited to. That one. Yeah, that one.
January of 2020, and before the pandemic, and that actually is what really pulled me up into that, right? Because without the reach, relevancy, and relationships that I cultivated through that show, and the credibility I think that I created for myself as a thought leader in the space, and the show, we build ourselves as the voice of relocation, without being able to kind of own that position in the market. I don't think I would have Glomo today. And so Glomo started as a sales consultancy for global mobility service providers, moving companies, corporate housing companies, immigration law firms, et cetera, right? And so what we would do is we would partner with what we consider the best kept secrets in relocation, and we would help them win business. Specifically, we focused on minority owned, women owned companies who have been in business 3 to 5 years, were operationally excellent, had good product market fit, where we were dealing directly with the entrepreneur slash owner founder of the company, and they were in the relocation business. And we would take those companies and start introducing them into RMCs and corporate clients and helping them win big chunks of business where before they really had trouble getting a seat at the table and being considered, because there were oftentimes these incumbents that were so predominant and big and had been around forever and everybody knew who they were and they had these crazy great relationships. And unfortunately, this industry on the corporate side tends to only buy from people they know. I mean, but this is a sales problem that's been around forever, right? There's an old saying, nobody gets fired for hiring IBM. And that's what IBM salespeople would say back in, I don't know what, Google it, the 60s or something. That was their pitch. Like, hey, we're big blue, hire us, and you're never going to get fired. It's not going to go sideways, right? You're never going to have to answer for a bad decision. And that's what so many of these big moving companies are doing. So many of these big corporate housing companies, so many of these big RMCs, that's how they sell is we're stable, we're predictable, the name, the name you trust, right? But it doesn't mean that they're the best. Oftentimes the biggest aren't the best. I think that is a fallacy that we draw as consumers of services, is we assume the biggest must be the best. That's why they're the biggest in a free market economy. The one that wins has to be the best, right? Not necessarily, right? They might have had a better go-to-market strategy. They might have had better salespeople. They might have had better marketing 10 years ago. They might have had the best product. But as we also know, things are innovating and iterating faster than ever. And so what I was seeing was the best companies weren't always winning. And the ones that were winning and were the biggest and were predominant, had the first place position in the market, weren't the best. So anyway, my point is, I was helping those companies, and that's how I really started Glomo. And we started with a few clients, and it was really great, And so then I also decided, though, hey, my product right now is Ben. I'm in the business of selling Ben as a service, right? But I can only sell so much Ben as a service because Ben only has so many hours in the day. And frankly, I started my own business, so I had flexibility and I had the ability to do what I want to do. And now instead of having one boss, I have 3, 4, 5 bosses. I was
Yeah.
like, well, I gotta change that, right? So I gotta pivot out of trading one boss for four bosses, even though I double my income in doing so. So then it's like, okay, how do I pivot into not just selling the service of Ben? So that's when I got in the recruitment business. So I was still leveraging the reach, relevancy, and relationships that I cultivated through Love and Reload and all my other things that I did. But I wasn't selling my advice. I was selling someone else's services, recruiting talent. And that's when I brought on Jana Shazanowski, my first hire, to actually aid with the consulting piece to take some of the pressure off of me. And then Danny Herskowitz, our director of talent, who now leads our recruiting practice, which has two people in it currently dedicated to recruiting for the global mobility space and relocation and moving. And we're actually hiring our third person here, in a couple months. So it's been growing like crazy. And then most recently, Milo, you may not even know this, but we've actually pivoted and gone upstream. And you asked me before, what's the biggest deal I ever closed? Hopefully, I have a new one for you this year because we're going into mergers and acquisitions advisement. So we're starting
Really
to do M&A
nice.
stuff. Yeah. So I said, how can
Nice.
I take the same template of leveraging my reach, relevancy, and relationships and do something even bigger, right? So that's been my whole thing is I'm good at reach, relevancy, and relationships. How do I take reach, relevancy, and relationships within the moving and relocation industry and do more with it, do more with it, do more with it, right? So I went from business development, sales consulting to recruitment and now to M&A. And I think
That's
that might be
awesome.
my highest and best use. We'll see what happens.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I know M&A
Thank you.
is a huge. I'm super happy for you because I've been on the sidelines a bit, but I saw you do all these cool things, and that's why I want to have you as the first guest on this
Thank you.
podcast. I
It's an
got you.
honor to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, and I have look since you spoke a little bit about recruiting. What this is a cliche question, but I'm gonna tweak it a bit.
Okay.
People will ask you what are the top three. Actually, it's not necessarily a cliche question. What are the top three interview questions that you ask people if you ask them? If it actually doesn't have to be three, give me two. Two of your go-to interview questions and why you use those.
I'm going to say this first. I'm a big fan of positive mindset, but there's a couple things I do really bad that I think I do really bad. And I probably shouldn't say this, but I think I hire really bad. I think I'm a terrible interviewer, which is honestly
Really?
why I let Jana recruit everybody to my firm, and I let Danny recruit everybody for other people's firms because I just don't think I do it really well. I think I'm a great judge of people, but there's something about the interview process when I sit down with this person I just see so much dang potential in them that no matter what they tell me, I'm just gonna say, you can do anything you put your mind to, And for some reason, I want to pay you to do that for me. And so I've been super fortunate with Jana and Danny and Rhiannon on the team. But honestly, I didn't hire any of those people. I used a recruiter to find Jana. She was right under my nose the whole time, and I didn't
Oh
see it.
wow!
So I used a recruiter to find her. You know, Anyway, my point is, I don't think I'm a spectacular recruiter, but I'm going to answer this question anyway. Okay.
Hey, I'm listening. I'm listening. This is even more relevant now. It's even more
Yeah,
relevant now.
I know. Maybe you could coach me on why my questions suck and then help me out because
I can
I give
help
you
you. I can
better
help you. Yeah,
questions.
I can help you.
I don't have two that I write down. I say this is my go-to. Okay, one. Tell me about a problem that you solved in your last company, or in your work history, and how you solved it. And that is a question that actually I think I kind of borrowed from Elon Musk, I think. And basically what that susses out is if somebody's full of crap or not, right? So, first I want to see what types of problems they engage with. Second, I want to see how they think about solutioning. I look for very entrepreneurial people. And then I look for the level of detail with which they describe it. And I know if they kind of gloss over and don't give me details, then I know that they're probably full of shit and they probably didn't actually solve it. If they give me like minute details and tell me exactly how to solve it, and then the problems within the problems and the problems along the way, and then they had to overcome this and then overcome that. I'm like, wow, this is a person. The more level of detail they give me, the more passion I see in that, the more I see someone who's willing to engage with a problem and overcome it despite the levels of obstacles that pop up along the way, right? Because every time you try to solve a problem, there's like 8 other problems that pop up, you know? And then I see their grit through that as well. You know, I mean, Jana, my first hire, told me this amazing story. She wanted to go to Worldwide ERC and her company wouldn't pay for it. So she took time off on her own. She used her own money to go from Brazil. She took a bus that was like 8 hours. She flew up to Boston. She couch surfed while she was there. She did all that in order to get to Worldwide ERC, which is where I met her the first time. I said, as soon as she told me that story, I said, there's literally nothing in this world this woman cannot accomplish. But that level of grit and determination, no matter what it takes to get it done and to invest in herself and her own professional development, I was like, there's absolutely nothing this woman can't accomplish. I was like, I'm hiring her, like, no brainer. Like, how fast can I get you on board? You know, because that's what I'm
That's
trying to do. I'm
awesome.
trying to take over the world, right? So it's like,
Yeah.
so when I hear like those types of stories, I'm like, instant yes. And the second question, I think is a question I ask myself, and that is this person a no-brainer? And that has to be yes, because my problem is I see potential in everybody, and it has to be an overwhelming flash of the obvious. If it's not a 100,000% yes, no brainer, then I'm probably making excuses for this person, and I'm probably kind of like shoring up some gaps and like that I wish were shored up for them, and I'm probably giving them maybe too much of the benefit of the doubt. Like, it needs to be an overwhelming yes, because at this point also in my company's development, I can't miss. I can't really afford to miss,
Yes.
right, and have to let somebody go or carry somebody for an extended period of time where they're not producing revenue or whatever in my company, because we're a small shop. So I think
Yeah.
that the second one is really a question I ask myself.
I like speaking of this, the first portion of the question that you said, like the first question. There's one question that I used to ask in a few interviews that I've done. Let's put it that
Mhm.
way. Is I used to ask people, hey, look, everybody has a plan to take over the world, a secret plan to take over the world. What is yours, and how does this position help you achieve
I
it?
like it. Because also, if they don't have a secret plan, I'm like, you're not my kind of people, right?
Exactly. You're not my cup of tea. You know what I mean?
And
Like,
B, if this does not help you get to that, then I think it's just a matter of time until you leave. You're not really, this isn't core and central to your purpose.
correct.
Ooh, I like
Like,
that.
look, you can use it freely if you
I
want
need
to.
questions, like I said.
Look, I got it. Like, I got the questions locked in because, like, full disclosure, I think I've done the last 5 6 years over 1,000 interviews,
Wow.
um, and yeah, I've asked a bunch of questions. I failed miserably at some, and most, I guess, like I've learned a lot. I've hired some people that haven't panned out. I've hired some great people and all that good stuff. But one of the things along the way, I kind of decided to do is I didn't specifically ask them a lot about their prior experience. Meaning, oh, tell me a little bit about your previous company. Tell me what you've done. I've actually asked them questions about them as a person. Meaning, one of the questions that I generally ask, I love asking, is what makes you angry and why? And then people will go like people have no idea why I'm asking that. It's like, what do you mean? What makes me like in general in life? What makes you angry and why? And then some people will tell you obviously road rage. They have road rage. It tells you all sorts of different quirks
I would
about their
think most people would
personality.
say I don't get angry because like they're in an interview and like they don't want to be like a red flag. So I would think
But
most people are like, oh, I don't really get angry.
the thing is, the interviews, some people do. And what I do is I'm like, look, I get angry all the time. And I'll tell them like a few things that make me angry and I give them examples. Whatever, road rage, whatever, my team lost, doesn't really matter. And then people open up. And generally, the way I conduct an interview is the same way that you and me are talking right now. It's just a casual conversation, even though I was a hiring person. Then outside of that question, I'll give you one more. Is if you're looking for someone with good communication skills, right? And people who generally, if there are, sales or anything customer success oriented, is you tell them this: hey, can you please explain something to me that's complicated that you know well, as succinctly as possible. And
As complicated that you know
that,
well as succinctly as possible. Okay.
yeah. And then people go and they explained all sorts of things, like how to knit. How they've told me about their passions, their hobbies, all the other good stuff. You can ask about passions. One of the things I wanted to ask you actually is one of the interview questions that I've used, and this is it.
All right, go ahead.
I will. So tell me a bit. Tell me about a product or service or anything in particular that you're very opinionated about and why. It can be anything.
I love opinion, like questions about opinions. One of my favorite questions, I'm going to answer this. One of my favorite questions is, tell me an opinion you have that is very unpopular. Tell me an unpopular opinion that you hold, or
Yep,
something
it's
you
a good
love that
question.
everyone hates, or something
Yeah,
you
go
hate that
ahead.
everyone else loves. All right,
I'm waiting.
so I'm going to go back to your question. Your question was, tell me an opinion you have. Say it one more
Uh,
time for me.
so tell me about a product or a service or anything that you are very opinionated about and why. It can be anything. It can be a brand. It can be
That
whatever.
I'm very opinionated about and why. Tell me a product
Yeah.
service I'm very opinionated about or why. You know, I have a lot. I'm a very opinionated person, to be honest with you. So I have a lot of things I'm very opinionated about. Um, all right. You know what? Yelp. Yelp is a service that I'm very opinionated about. In fact, I have a love-hate relationship with Yelp. Okay. Shall I start with the love or start with the hate?
Start with the love because of love and reload.
Start with
We'll
the
go
love. Okay. All right,
into.
I'm gonna try to stay in a place of love here. So I love Yelp because no matter where I am in the world, I can, well, in the US, not the world, because it's really not great globally. No matter where I am in the United States, I'm a big fan of like eating good food, right? So and I kind of never want to waste a meal, right? There's books like Never Eat Alone. That's probably about
Yeah.
like, networking. For me, never eat a bad meal. That's my rule. Okay, whether I'm alone or not, never eat a bad meal. So I'll
Yeah.
pop open the Yelp app, and I can see the top 20 restaurants. I can say, okay, I want Asian because I like wild exotic stuff. So I want Asian, I want Vietnamese, I want Thai, I want what? Oh, this is some like cuisine I never heard of before, or Ethiopian or some kind of country I've never, And then I just love to just go down the rabbit hole and eat all sorts of new stuff. And Yelp is phenomenal for being able to find these amazing restaurants. Yeah, so love that about it. Love the reviews, love all of it. Hate it as a moving company. Yelp is super interesting because Yelp came about in probably the late 2000s, I'm gonna guess. And you got moving companies in the United States who have been around for 100 years. Great moving companies. And you look at great moving companies reviews on Yelp, like the ones that like get like the Cardis Cup, like the most highly awarded corporate movers in the space, right? Or government movers for that matter, right? In the military program. And you look at their Yelp page, 2.5, 3 stars.
At
And that's
best.
because, yeah, that's because when they started out, they would get killed in the beginning, right? And then you look at the people on Yelp who have 5 stars from a moving standpoint, and it's like helpers, like a helper company, or like let me load your Penske truck company, or some random mover that started up, two drunks in a truck that started up three 3 years ago, and then bought like a whole bunch of like fake Yelp reviews from like Israel or something, because you can do that. You go on Craigslist and buy Yelp reviews, and then they get 40 5-star reviews, and these two drunks loading your truck are crushing these 100-year-old moving companies who have, all this service behind them and all this, reputation from within the circles that matter and the people that know. And so I feel like, Yelp is amazing from a restaurant standpoint, and I feel like it's absolute trash from a moving standpoint.
Yeah, it's a great answer. It's a great answer. And there's
Thank
a
you.
bunch of
Am I hired? Did I get the job?
Yes, you get the job. You get the job.
Sweet. We haven't even discussed salary, and I already closed them. I love it.
Yeah, we'll discuss salary. We'll discuss salary after we sign the contract. There's a probation period of 7 to 8 years, and we'll figure it out afterwards. But look, I love chatting with you, Ben, and
Thanks. Me too.
I think this is awesome. And then we'll continue doing this, and then you have to keep me updated on the M&A stuff because I'm keen. I'm keen to know because that's gonna be a big step because I think it's awesome because a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I'm always looking for people who are looking to buy companies. I'm always looking for people who are looking to sell companies in this space. People who want to buy what I would call the hidden gems, especially before they go to market. I can really add a lot of value there. And Milo, I love what you're doing here. I love your new company. I love this podcast idea. I think it's going to be hugely successful with your amazing network that you have. And I had a ton of fun. I could do this for another hour, to be honest with you. So just let me know when you can book me again, because I have more to say about all this stuff.
My man. Look, thank you everybody for tuning in. This was the first episode of DriveSales with my man Ben Cross of CEO of GLOMO. Check him out. Their website is awesome, by the way. It looks like the videos of conferences. You look like an ESP. Look, bro, you look like you can be on ESPN Talkcast easily. So
hey, that's the goal, right? Look like you can do it, and then people let you do it.
Yeah, check them out. Check them out. I think Ben is awesome. The company is doing great stuff, as you guys have heard throughout the show. So I'm looking forward to seeing what happens. And thank you very much for the shout out for us. Yeah, we're a small company. We're just getting going, so it's gonna
small
be nice.
But mighty, my friend. That's how we all start.
Thank you guys, and until next time. Bye.
Thanks.